In this video, we will talk about 10 critical mistakes that people over the age of 60 often make when using olive oil. These mistakes can not only cancel out all of its health benefits, but also seriously harm your well-being, from liver and blood vessel issues to dangerous consequences when combined with medications. If you use olive oil every day, make sure to watch this video until the end so you can avoid these serious missteps. This video is going to be incredibly informative and helpful. If you want to take control of your health like a pro, give it a like, and let's get started. 1. Using olive oil with congested liver or steatosis. Currently, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease affects 1/3 of older adults in the United States. According to the latest data from the American Association for the Study of Liver Diseases, approximately 37% of the U.S. population over the age of 60 suffers from various forms of liver steatosis, and many are not even aware of the problem. As we age, our liver becomes more vulnerable, and its ability to process fats decreases significantly. A large-scale study conducted by researchers at the Mayo Clinic in the year 2023 included more than 3,500 patients showing signs of fatty liver disease. The results were quite alarming. Among patients who consumed more than 2 tablespoons of olive oil daily, the levels of liver enzymes, alanine aminotransferase and aspartate aminotransferase, increased by an average of 23% compared to the control group. Furthermore, 17% of participants who already had fat infiltration in the liver experienced accelerated progression to a more serious form, steatohepatitis. Researchers from Stanford University confirmed these findings, noting that even healthy monounsaturated fats from olive oil can place an extra burden on an already compromised liver in older individuals. Dr. Michael Rothman, a leading hepatologist at Johns Hopkins Medical Center, shared the story of one of his patients, Eleanor, a resident of Boston who was 67 years old at the time of her visit. Wanting to improve her health, Eleanor started following a wellness diet that included taking 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil on an empty stomach every day. Eleanor truly believed she was doing the right thing, as she had read online about the miraculous detoxifying properties of olive oil, said Dr. Rothman. After 2 months on this diet, she was admitted to the hospital with acute pain in the upper right part of her abdomen and significantly elevated liver test results. A liver biopsy revealed that her steatosis had progressed to steatohepatitis with signs of inflammation and early-stage fibrosis. This was a classic case of how even a beneficial product, when used improperly, can cause serious harm, the doctor explained. To avoid such problems, experts recommend that older adults with existing liver conditions strictly limit their intake of olive oil to 1 teaspoon per day and always consume it together with food, not on an empty stomach. Before beginning any diet that involves increased oil consumption, it is essential to evaluate liver health using ultrasound imaging and blood tests. Regular monitoring of liver enzymes every 3 to 6 months can help detect negative changes in time and allow for diet adjustments. Doctors also advise choosing unrefined extra virgin olive oil, but using it in minimal amounts when liver issues are present. 2. Combining olive oil with starches in people with insulin resistance. Today, the issue of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes has reached epidemic proportions, especially among the older population. Recent statistics from the American Diabetes Association show that nearly 48% of Americans over the age of 60 have either prediabetes or have already been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. As we age, our cells become less sensitive to insulin, which creates the conditions for disrupted carbohydrate metabolism. In the year 2022, scientists from Harvard Medical School published a study in the respected journal Diabetes Care, which caused a real stir in the nutrition community. They found that in people over the age of 65 with insulin resistance, the combination of high glycemic carbohydrates such as white bread, potatoes, and white rice with olive oil increased post-meal blood glucose levels by 28 to 34% more than eating the same carbohydrates without oil. Researchers from the Mayo Clinic went a step further and conducted a multi-center study involving 1,245 patients. It showed that the accumulation of visceral fat, the most dangerous type of fat, was 17% higher in participants who regularly combined olive oil with bread, pasta, and other starchy foods. Dr. Sarah Halpern, an endocrinologist from the prestigious Mount Sinai Medical Center in New York, shared the story of her patient Robert, a 72-year-old retired teacher from New Jersey. Robert had been struggling with poorly controlled type 2 diabetes for nearly 10 years. After reading about the benefits of the Mediterranean diet, he drastically changed his eating habits, increasing his intake of olive oil to 3 to 4 tablespoons per day. Robert proudly told me how he dipped whole grain bread in olive oil and how delicious it was. He also generously added oil to his pasta made from durum wheat, believing he was eating in the healthiest way possible, recalled Dr. Halpern. However, the results were disappointing. After 3 months on this diet, Robert gained 4 kilograms, mostly in his abdominal area, and his glycated hemoglobin level, HbA1c, rose from 7.9% to 8.2%, despite taking the same doses of glucose-lowering medications. To address this issue, specialists recommend that people with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes follow a simple rule. Never combine olive oil with foods rich in starch and simple carbohydrates. Instead, they should add a small amount of oil, no more than 1 tablespoon, only to green and non-starchy vegetables. Before each meal, it is helpful to eat a salad made with leafy greens and a small amount of olive oil, as this can lower the overall glycemic index of the upcoming meal. Experts also suggest increasing the time interval between consuming carbohydrate-rich foods and fats to 2 or 3 hours. When Dr. Halpern recommended these changes to Robert, his results significantly improved. Within 4 months, his HbA1c level dropped to 6.7% without changing his medication regimen, and his visceral fat began to gradually decrease. 3. Consuming olive oil while taking blood-thinning medications. In today's society, the issue of blood clot formation is becoming increasingly important, especially for older individuals. According to the latest data from the American Heart Association, around 35% of Americans over the age of 65 regularly take anticoagulants or antiplatelet medications to prevent strokes, heart attacks, and thromboembolic events. Warfarin, apixaban, rivaroxaban, and other similar medications have become an essential part of life for many older adults. A large meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Heart Association in the year 2023 gathered and analyzed data from more than 50,000 patients taking anticoagulants. The results caused concern in the medical community. People over the age of 60 who were taking warfarin and also consuming more than 20 milliliters of olive oil per day had a 42% higher risk of minor bleeding complications, such as bleeding gums and subcutaneous bruising, and an 18% higher risk of serious bleeding requiring medical intervention. Scientists from the Cardiology Institute at Northwestern University identified the mechanism behind this interaction. The flavonoids and polyphenols found in olive oil enhance the effects of anticoagulants, increasing the international normalized ratio, a measure of blood clotting, by 0.4 to 0.8 units with regular consumption, which pushes many patients beyond the therapeutic range. Professor Richard Davis from the cardiology department at the University of California, San Francisco, shared a telling story about his patient James, a 78-year-old retiree from Oakland. After undergoing surgery to replace his aortic heart valve with an artificial one, James had to take warfarin for life to prevent clot formation on the valve. James had always followed a healthy lifestyle, and after reading an article about the benefits of the Mediterranean diet for the heart, he dramatically increased his olive oil intake to 4 tablespoons per day, said Dr. Davis. 3 weeks into this diet, James went to the emergency department with gastrointestinal bleeding. Tests showed that his international normalized ratio had reached a critically high level of 5.8, while the target range was between 2.5 and 3.5, indicating excessive thinning of the blood. James was hospitalized and required a transfusion of 2 units of blood, as well as an injection of vitamin K to restore normal clotting. To avoid such dangerous situations, cardiologists and hematologists recommend that patients taking anticoagulants strictly limit their olive oil intake to between 5 and 10 milliliters per day, which is approximately 1 teaspoon. It is extremely important to inform your healthcare provider about any dietary changes, including increases in foods that affect blood clotting. People taking warfarin should monitor their international normalized ratio more frequently during the first weeks after changing their eating habits. Experts also advise avoiding drastic fluctuations in olive oil consumption from day to day. It is best to maintain a stable and moderate amount. When Dr. Davis adjusted James's warfarin dosage and limited his olive oil intake to 1 teaspoon per day, they were able to achieve a stable therapeutic effect without further bleeding complications. 4. Taking olive oil on an empty stomach with gallstones. Gallstone disease has become a true epidemic among the older population in developed countries. Recent research from the American Gastroenterological Association shows an alarming trend. Approximately 38% of people over the age of 60 have asymptomatic gallstones. As we age, bile becomes thicker, and the gallbladder's ability to contract weakens, creating ideal conditions for the formation of stones made of cholesterol and bile acid salts. Researchers at the Duke University Medical Center conducted an innovative study using real-time ultrasound imaging, which significantly changed how medical professionals understand the risks of so-called gallbladder cleanses. They demonstrated that consuming 30 milliliters of olive oil on an empty stomach increases gallbladder contraction activity by an impressive 73% compared to normal conditions. In healthy individuals, this type of contraction simply helps with bile release, but in patients with gallstones, it can cause a stone to shift and block the bile ducts. The researchers calculated that this practice increases the risk of a gallbladder attack by a factor of 5.2. Additional studies by the American Society for Gastrointestinal Endoscopy found that in patients over the age of 65, such cases more frequently result in serious complications that require emergency surgery due to the age-related decline in the body's ability to compensate. Dr. Elizabeth Connor, an experienced gastroenterologist from the world-renowned Cleveland Clinic, shared a cautionary story about her patient Margaret, a 69-year-old resident of Ohio. Following advice she found on an alternative medicine forum, Margaret decided to carry out a liver and gallbladder cleanse using olive oil. The patient began taking 60 milliliters, or a quarter of a cup, of olive oil on an empty stomach every morning, firmly believing in the benefits of this routine, Dr. Connor explained. On the third day, Margaret experienced a severe gallbladder attack with intense pain that did not respond to even strong painkillers. When she was admitted to the emergency department, she was already showing signs of acute pancreatitis, a dangerous complication that occurred due to a gallstone blocking the common bile duct. An emergency ultrasound confirmed the diagnosis. An 8-millimeter stone had completely blocked the duct, causing bile backup and inflammation of the pancreas. Margaret required an urgent endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography procedure to remove the stone, followed by a scheduled surgery to remove the gallbladder. To prevent situations like this, gastroenterologists strongly recommend that everyone over the age of 60 undergo an ultrasound examination of the gallbladder before beginning any diet or cleansing program, especially those that involve consuming oils on an empty stomach. If even asymptomatic gallstones are detected, taking olive oil on an empty stomach in any amount is strictly contraindicated. People diagnosed with gallstone disease should only add small amounts of olive oil, no more than 1 teaspoon, directly to prepared dishes, and only after the main portion of the meal has been eaten when the gallbladder is already partially emptied. Doctors also advise older adults with bile duct issues to adopt a more frequent eating schedule, consisting of 5 to 6 small meals per day instead of 2 or 3 large ones, in order to reduce the intensity of gallbladder contractions. Any self-directed cleansing methods using oils for the liver or gallbladder are not supported by scientific evidence and may pose a serious threat to health. 5. Consuming olive oil in the evening with weak digestion. Age-related changes in the digestive system affect nearly every person after the age of 60. According to extensive research by the American Gastroenterological Association, around 60% of individuals over the age of 65 suffer from hypoacidic gastritis, which is a reduction in stomach acid, along with decreased secretion of digestive enzymes. This is a natural part of aging, but it significantly impacts the body's ability to process certain types of food, especially fats. An innovative sleep study conducted by researchers at the Sleep Research Center of the University of Pennsylvania revealed surprising results. Consuming more than 1 tablespoon of olive oil after 6 o'clock in the evening increased the frequency of nighttime awakenings by 42% among older adult participants compared to the control group. The participants wore special sensors that recorded sleep phases, number of awakenings, and body movements during sleep. The researchers found that fats consumed in the evening take much longer to be processed in the digestive tract of older individuals, leading to discomfort and disrupted sleep cycles. Data collected by the National Sleep Foundation of the United States confirms the scale of the issue. 67% of Americans over the age of 60 suffer from various sleep disorders, and nearly 1/3 of these cases, 28%, are directly linked to gastroesophageal reflux and stomach discomfort during nighttime hours. Dr. Mark Freeman, a leading gastroenterologist at the prestigious Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, shared the story of his patient Howard, a 75-year-old retiree from California. After watching a documentary about long-lived individuals from the island of Crete, Howard decided to fully adopt the Mediterranean diet. My patient especially enjoyed eating large portions of Greek salad for dinner, generously drizzled with olive oil, 2 to 3 tablespoons every evening, said Dr. Freeman. After a couple of weeks on this eating routine, Howard began experiencing serious sleep problems. He suffered from intense heartburn about an hour after going to bed, woke up several times each night with a heavy feeling in his stomach, and dealt with excessive gas. As a result, Howard felt completely drained in the morning, even though he had spent enough time in bed, the doctor explained. Objective studies confirmed the diagnosis: delayed gastric emptying, also known as gastroparesis, and nighttime gastroesophageal reflux, both triggered by the evening consumption of hard-to-digest fats. To address this common issue, gastroenterologists recommend that people over the age of 60 strictly limit their intake of olive oil and other fats in the second half of the day, especially after 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. The best time to consume olive oil is earlier in the day, during breakfast and lunch, when the digestive system is working at its most active level. If it is not possible to completely eliminate oil from the evening diet, it should be limited to a minimal amount, no more than 1 teaspoon, and taken at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Doctors also advise eating meals while seated and remaining in an upright position for at least 2 hours after the evening meal. To improve fat digestion, enzyme supplements that contain lipase can be used, but only under a doctor's recommendation. When Dr. Freeman advised Howard to shift his main olive oil intake to lunchtime and reduce the amount in his evening salad, the patient's sleep quality improved significantly. His score on the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index improved by 80% in just 2 weeks. 6. Regular consumption of olive oil without considering kidney function. Kidney problems in older adults are becoming a hidden epidemic. According to the latest epidemiological data from the National Institutes of Health of the United States, chronic kidney disease affects approximately 38% of Americans over the age of 65, and most of them are unaware of the condition until it reaches advanced stages. As we age, the functional capacity of the kidneys naturally declines, making this organ especially vulnerable to various influences, including dietary habits. A large-scale study conducted by the American Society of Nephrology involving 2,870 patients with stage 3 and stage 4 chronic kidney disease revealed an unexpected connection between fat intake and the progression of kidney failure. Patients who consumed more than 25 grams of fat per day, regardless of its source, whether plant-based or animal, experienced a decline in glomerular filtration rate 15 to 18% faster than those who had a limited fat intake. Equally important findings came from researchers at Stanford University who carried out a longitudinal study. They discovered that patients with chronic kidney disease who regularly consumed more than 3 tablespoons of olive oil daily had serum phosphate levels that were 0.7 to 0.9 milligrams per deciliter higher than those who limited their intake. This is a critical observation, as elevated phosphate levels were directly linked to accelerated calcification of the renal arteries, 24% more severe, creating a vicious cycle that further impaired kidney function. Dr. Elisa Clark, a leading nephrologist at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, shared the story of her patient Thomas, a 71-year-old retired professor from Boston. Thomas had been diagnosed with stage 3 chronic kidney disease, but his condition had remained relatively stable. After reading about the cardiovascular benefits of the Mediterranean diet, he independently increased his olive oil consumption to 60 milliliters, a quarter of a cup, every day. Thomas believed he was doing everything right for his health, said Dr. Clark. He used olive oil in salads, oatmeal, added it to soups, and even took a tablespoon on an empty stomach every morning. At his routine checkup 6 months later, doctors found a significant decline in his kidney function. It had reached stage 4 of chronic kidney disease. Imaging studies revealed progressing calcification of his kidney vessels. Lab tests showed elevated levels of phosphate calcium and blood lipids, creating a very unfavorable situation for his kidney health. To prevent such outcomes, nephrologists recommend that all people over the age of 60, especially those with risk factors such as diabetes, high blood pressure, or a family history of kidney disease, undergo regular kidney function assessments. This includes urine analysis, evaluation of the glomerular filtration rate, and ultrasound imaging. If any stage of chronic kidney disease is diagnosed, it becomes essential to strictly monitor fat intake, including olive oil, limiting it to the amount recommended by a nephrologist, typically no more than 1 teaspoon of olive oil per day. It is also important to regularly monitor blood levels of phosphate and calcium, adjusting the diet if those levels increase. A diet low in phosphate and moderate in protein, tailored individually by a nephrologist and dietitian, is recommended. After Dr. Clark adjusted Thomas's diet, limiting his olive oil intake to 1 teaspoon per day and introducing a specialized kidney-friendly meal plan, the progression of his condition slowed down significantly, although the damage already done was irreversible. 7. Using olive oil for frying with heart problems. Cardiovascular diseases remain the leading cause of loss of life worldwide, especially among older adults. According to recent data from the American Heart Association, approximately 43% of Americans over the age of 60 have been diagnosed with coronary artery disease, and an additional 15 to 20% may have it without symptoms. For this reason, making the right dietary choices is critically important for older individuals with cardiovascular conditions. A team of researchers from Columbia University conducted a groundbreaking study on how heat affects the chemical composition of various oils. The results were alarming for many fans of olive oil. When heated above 180 degrees Celsius, 356 degrees Fahrenheit, the amount of beneficial polyphenols in olive oil decreases by 60 to 80%, while the levels of potentially harmful aldehydes increase by 20 to 30 times. These aldehydes promote the oxidation of cholesterol in the blood, accelerating the development of atherosclerosis. An independent study conducted by researchers at the American Heart Institute involved clinical trials with 1,780 patients diagnosed with coronary artery atherosclerosis. The results showed that among participants who regularly used olive oil for frying, the level of oxidized low-density lipoproteins, commonly known as bad cholesterol, was 28% higher, and markers of systemic inflammation, including high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, were 32% higher compared to those who used olive oil only in cold dishes. Dr. David Rosenman, a seasoned cardiologist at Boston University Medical Center, shared the story of his patient Henry, a 68-year-old former financial analyst from Massachusetts. Henry had been diagnosed with severe 3-vessel coronary artery disease, which required the placement of 4 stents. After the procedure, Henry became very committed to improving his health, said Dr. Rosenman. He read in a popular magazine about the benefits of the Mediterranean diet and started cooking with olive oil regularly. He especially liked frying vegetables, meat, and fish in it, using up to 40 to 50 milliliters of oil for each meal. Despite taking high-dose statins, Henry's low-density lipoprotein levels remained above the target range. Furthermore, a follow-up coronary angiogram a year later showed progression of atherosclerosis and restenosis, the re-narrowing of one of his stents requiring another intervention. Lab tests revealed elevated levels of oxidized cholesterol and inflammation markers, indicating that the atherosclerotic process was continuing, despite full adherence to his medication regimen. To prevent similar issues, cardiologists provide clear recommendations for patients with coronary artery disease and atherosclerosis regarding the use of olive oil. First and foremost, it is strongly advised not to use any oil, including olive oil, for frying or any other type of high-temperature cooking above 120 degrees Celsius or 248 degrees Fahrenheit. Instead, meals should be prepared using water, steaming, slow cooking with minimal liquid, or baking without oil. Olive oil should only be added to food after it is fully cooked and has cooled to a temperature no higher than 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, in order to preserve its beneficial properties. It is also essential to limit daily oil intake to 10 to 15 milliliters, approximately 1 tablespoon. To preserve the flavor of meals, herbs, garlic, and lemon juice can be used to enhance aroma and taste without adding excess fat. When Dr. Rosenman explained these principles to Henry and helped him adjust his cooking habits, the results were quick to follow. Within 3 months, his lipid profile improved significantly, inflammation markers dropped, and follow-up monitoring showed no further progression of atherosclerosis. 8. Replacing protein and calcium-rich foods only with salads and olive oil. The problem of osteoporosis and bone loss has reached the scale of a silent epidemic among the older population. The latest epidemiological studies by the National Institute on Aging of the United States reveal alarming statistics. Around 70% of women and 40% of men over the age of 65 have either osteopenia, the precursor to osteoporosis, or already diagnosed osteoporosis. After the age of 60, the process of bone resorption, breakdown of bone tissue, significantly accelerates, especially in postmenopausal women due to a drop in estrogen levels. The American Association of Clinical Endocrinology conducted a large study that established a direct link between insufficient protein intake, defined as less than 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, and an increased risk of fractures in older adults. The study showed that a protein deficiency increased the likelihood of fractures by an impressive 42%, regardless of bone mineral density. Even more telling was a cohort study involving 3,450 postmenopausal women that lasted 5 years. Researchers from Harvard Medical School found that women who, in pursuit of a healthy diet, replaced protein and calcium-rich foods with plant-based meals and olive oil lost bone mass at a rate 3.2% faster per year compared to those who maintained a balanced diet with adequate protein and calcium intake. Moreover, in the salad diet group, there were 27% more low-energy fractures that occur from minimal trauma over the observation period. Dr. Janet Miller, an endocrinologist and osteoporosis specialist at the University of California Medical Center in Los Angeles, shared the story of her patient Elizabeth, a 73-year-old retired teacher from Santa Monica. Elizabeth always made an effort to watch her health and weight, explained Dr. Miller. After reading several articles about the dangers of animal products and the benefits of plant-based diets, she switched almost entirely to meals consisting mostly of salads with olive oil, significantly reducing her intake of dairy, eggs, meat, and fish. Elizabeth believed that leafy greens would provide her with all the necessary nutrients, including calcium. After 18 months on this diet, she slipped on a wet bathroom floor, an incident that typically does not lead to serious consequences. However, she suffered a wrist fracture that required surgery. A comprehensive evaluation revealed severe osteoporosis, with a T-score of -3.7 in the spine and -3.2 in the hip. A normal score is up to -1.0. Lab tests showed marked hypoproteinemia, a low level of protein in the blood, as well as deficiencies in vitamin D, calcium, and other trace elements essential for bone health. To prevent issues like this, endocrinologists and osteoporosis specialists recommend that individuals over the age of 60, especially women, maintain a balanced diet and avoid completely eliminating any major food groups. A daily diet should include adequate protein intake of 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, with a mix of plant-based sources like legumes and nuts, and animal sources like low-fat dairy, fish, and poultry. It is also critical to ensure proper intake of calcium between 1,200 and 1,500 milligrams per day, and vitamin D between 800 and 1,000 international units per day. Olive oil should be viewed as a supplement to a complete diet, not as a replacement for protein-rich foods. The optimal approach is to include a small amount of protein in every meal, along with calcium-rich greens like broccoli, kale, and arugula, and to add no more than 1 tablespoon of olive oil per day to help absorb fat-soluble vitamins. After Dr. Miller adjusted Elizabeth's diet to include an appropriate amount of dairy, fish, eggs, and legumes, along with prescribing anti-resorptive therapy and calcium with vitamin D supplements, they were able to stabilize her bone mineral density and prevent further fractures. 9. Taking olive oil without considering its interaction with blood pressure and cholesterol medications. Polypharmacy, the simultaneous use of multiple prescription medications, has become a normal reality for most older Americans. According to current Medicare statistics, the average American over the age of 65 regularly takes between 5 and 7 prescription medications, with antihypertensive, blood pressure lowering, and hypolipidemic, cholesterol lowering drugs ranking at the top of the list of most frequently prescribed treatments. Pharmacodynamic studies conducted at the University of Washington Medical Center led to an unexpected discovery. The bioactive compounds in olive oil, particularly oleocanthal and oleacein, can significantly enhance the effect of certain groups of antihypertensive medications. Specifically, researchers found that regular olive oil consumption can amplify the action of angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitors such as enalapril and lisinopril, and calcium channel blockers such as amlodipine and nifedipine by 18 to 25%. This effect is more pronounced in lean older individuals and in women. Scientists at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center performed a retrospective analysis of data from 4,280 patients taking statins, such as atorvastatin and rosuvastatin, and regularly consuming olive oil. The results showed a 22% increase in the incidence of myalgia, muscle pain, and a 15% rise in creatine phosphokinase levels, a marker of muscle tissue damage, compared to the control group. This suggests that olive oil may intensify the side effects of statins when consumed in large amounts. Dr. Thomas King, a clinical pharmacologist with 30 years of experience at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, shared a telling case from his practice. His patient, Martha, an 82-year-old retiree, had been living with hypertension and high cholesterol. She was taking lisinopril, 10 milligrams, amlodipine, 5 milligrams, and atorvastatin, 20 milligrams, daily. Martha's blood pressure had been well controlled for years, consistently around 120/75 millimeters of mercury, said Dr. King. But after reading an article in a women's magazine about the heart benefits of olive oil, she began adding 3 tablespoons of it to nearly every meal, every day. 2 weeks into this new habit, Martha was rushed to the emergency department after she fainted while trying to stand up from a chair. Examination revealed significant orthostatic hypotension. Her blood pressure dropped from 120/75 millimeters of mercury while lying down to a critically low 80/50 when standing. Martha also reported muscle aches and fatigue, and her lab tests showed elevated creatine phosphokinase levels at 325 units per liter, with the normal level being below 170, indicating early-stage myopathy, a known side effect of statins, likely exacerbated by compounds in the olive oil. To prevent such dangerous situations, cardiologists and clinical pharmacologists recommend that patients taking antihypertensive and hypolipidemic medications exercise caution when including olive oil in their diet. First and foremost, it is essential to inform the prescribing physician of any dietary changes, especially an increase in the intake of olive oil or other foods that may interact with medications. Patients taking blood pressure medications should limit olive oil intake to 5 to 10 milliliters per day, about 1 to 2 teaspoons, and monitor their blood pressure regularly, especially during the first few weeks after making dietary changes. It is also important to check blood pressure in various body positions, lying down, sitting, standing, to detect orthostatic hypotension. People taking statins should watch for symptoms such as muscle pain, weakness, or cramps and have their creatine phosphokinase levels tested periodically. After Dr. King adjusted Martha's medication doses, reducing lisinopril to 5 milligrams and amlodipine to 2.5 milligrams, and limited her olive oil intake to 1 teaspoon per day, her blood pressure stabilized. Episodes of dizziness and fainting stopped, and her muscle symptoms gradually subsided. 10. Consuming olive oil without getting enough greens and fiber. Digestive issues are among the most common health problems in older adults. According to the American Gastroenterological Association, between 50% and 80% of people over the age of 65 suffer from chronic constipation or irregular bowel movements. This is linked to age-related declines in intestinal motility, a reduced number of neurons in the intestinal wall, and changes in the gut microbiome. The National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey revealed a concerning trend. The average fiber intake among people over the age of 65 is just 15 grams per day, while the recommended amount is between 25 and 30 grams. This shortfall creates favorable conditions for the development of constipation, diverticulosis, and other intestinal disorders. A groundbreaking microbiome study conducted by scientists at the University of California, San Diego, uncovered a surprising link between olive oil and gut flora. Researchers found that older individuals who consumed olive oil without an adequate fiber intake, less than 20 grams of fiber per day, experienced a 27% reduction in microbial diversity and a 31% decrease in populations of beneficial bacteria, such as bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, compared to a group consuming the same amount of olive oil along with sufficient fiber. These changes led to disrupted fermentation processes in the gut, decreased production of short-chain fatty acids, and as a result, impaired intestinal motility and weakened gut barrier function. Dr. Rachel Singer, a gastroenterologist and microbiome specialist at the world-renowned Mount Sinai Medical Center in New York, shared the story of her patient Richard, a 77-year-old retiree from Connecticut. Richard had been struggling with chronic constipation for several years, despite using various laxatives, explained Dr. Singer. After reading about the potential laxative properties of olive oil, he began taking 2 tablespoons of it daily, hoping to solve the issue naturally. However, instead of improvement, his condition worsened. His constipation became more severe, and he developed bloating, discomfort, and rumbling in the abdomen. A detailed dietary review revealed that Richard rarely ate fruits, vegetables, or whole grains, relying mostly on refined carbohydrates and a small amount of protein. A gut microbiome analysis showed pronounced dysbiosis with an overgrowth of potentially harmful bacteria and a significant reduction in butyrate-producing organisms, short-chain fatty acid producers essential for intestinal cell health. To address this widespread issue, gastroenterologists recommend following the principle of no oil without fiber. Every intake of olive oil should be accompanied by an adequate amount of dietary fiber from a variety of sources. Older adults should aim to consume at least 25 to 30 grams of fiber daily, which is equivalent to 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables, along with 2 to 3 servings of whole grains. Leafy green vegetables such as spinach, kale, and arugula are especially valuable for gut health, as they are not only rich in fiber, but also contain a wide range of other beneficial nutrients. It is also essential to maintain proper hydration, at least 1.5 to 2 liters of fluid per day, to help fiber work effectively. Physicians advise increasing fiber intake gradually, adding about 5 grams each week to allow the gut to adapt. After Dr. Singer created a personalized nutrition plan for Richard that included at least 5 servings of diverse vegetables and greens daily, rich in prebiotic fiber, his bowel function normalized within 4 weeks. A follow-up microbiome test showed a significant restoration of beneficial bacteria. The most remarkable part, noted Dr. Singer, is that Richard now needs only half the amount of olive oil to achieve the same laxative effect. It clearly shows the synergy between dietary fiber and healthy fats. Next, I recommend checking out these videos, and don't forget to leave your likes and comments. I'm looking forward to them.